Well, looky here. You are listening to someone who is bold, authentic, diverse, unpredictable. Baby, I am unapologetically Ramon, and you have entered my zone, the QB zone, baby. Hello, somebody.
Rock Legion.
So, on today's episode of the QB Zone, we're having another one of my friends and family takeover episodes. Today, I'm having a conversation with a very close friend and fraternity brother of mine, Stephone Coward, who is no stranger to the QB Zone. One of the things that I love about the friends and family takeover episodes is the unpredictability and the spontaneity, and the fact that I have no idea what my guests will ask me, no idea what they want to talk about, have not even the slightest idea what in the world I'm going to be in for. The conversation that you guys are going to witness today was very vulnerable, authentic, and it was really beneficial to the both of us. We had no idea where the conversation was going to go or that it was going to do what it did for the both of us. And so I hope if it's even just one person that is touched and that benefits from this episode, it definitely will be rewarding. But I'm very proud of this episode, and I'm very happy to share this episode with all of you. So I hope you enjoy the conversation, friends and family takeover number 2 with Stephone Coward.
So the question again, the question is, if we know what we are dealing with and the heaviness that it brings and everything that's going on, with us, but if somebody else was going through the exact same thing that we are going through, the exact same thing, and they came to you, for advice, or like, because they know that you are a light in this world, and that they know that they can come to you for advice just because of how you carry yourself in this world, what would you tell them if they were going through the exact same thing as you, and taking yourself out of the situation of what you know that you're going through, just like who you are as a person? How would you respond to that person?
So I think that the first things that come to my mind is therapy, a self-evaluation, and prayer. With the therapy, I just think therapeutically it's good to have that support system to help you process things that you're feeling, and just the thoughts that can come through our mind, especially when we're idle. That's the devil's playground. And I think just also it's good to have that neutral party that doesn't have a stake in the battle. They're very, they're not biased. They don't know you personally, and they can really give you a different perspective of what you're dealing with. So I think that's really good. With prayer, it is interesting because I've spoken openly with people about how under construction I am spiritually and how disconnected I am spiritually. And although I still have a small desire, but a desire to keep fighting and keep pressing in that department, I have find myself, although feeling neglected or abandoned, realize the power of what he has done in other people's lives. And so I still believe in what he can do for others. I may not be connected with him. I may be struggling with him, but I am not struggling when it comes to the faith of what I believe he can do in other people, because I continue to see it. And so that, along with me mentioning self-evaluation as the third thing, reminds me of 3 words that kind of hit me a few months ago. And that's grace, space, and pace. Start with pace. We cannot go at nobody else's. We cannot compare our journey to nobody else's. We cannot compare how someone is healed to how we're going to heal. It may take us longer, it may take us shorter, but our journey is going to be specifically designed for us, and we need to be okay with that. It can be hard.
Yes.
It can be hard when we're a control freak. A lot of us as human beings are impatient, but we have to be willing to submit to whatever our process and journey look like, and go through it in our pace. Grace comes from, we can be very hard on ourselves when we go through things. We can carry loads. I am so quick to carry loads of guilt for shit that's not even my problem.
Yep.
Stuff that I could not have prevented. Things happened to me that I did not deserve. Now, let's be honest, there's some things that probably happened to us that we deserved it. But for the
absolutely, all of
a lot of
us.
things that have happened that I did not deserve, I would still take guilt for it. And I've allowed people to deflect their guilt onto me. But even just focusing on ourselves and the fact that we always carry a lot of guilt, we need to give ourselves grace to make a mistake.
Right.
Give ourselves grace that there are going to be times where we're not going to be okay. And when you have this plan of how you want to progress or how you want to heal, how you want to do better, you're not going to get perfection. But as long as there can be some perfection, you should be happy. And just because you may make a mistake or have a rough moment or bad, or isolated moment of bad judgment, doesn't mean you're not healed. Doesn't mean you're not better. So we need to give ourselves that grace that there are going to be some roadblocks and there are going to be some times we drop the ball with ourselves. Because when you have been traumatized or you're going through negative situations and it has lasted for an extended amount of time, the healing is also extended. You're not going to be going through whatever negative turmoil you're going through for years and then all of a sudden things are going to be better after a few months. No, you got to give yourself grace to understand this is how it's going to go. Now, as far as
it took a certain amount of time for you to go through that pain and for your body to adjust for the fact that I may have went through a turbulent time for 5 years, 10 years of my life, and that 5 to 10 years took its toll on me, right? That's 5 to 10 years. So when it comes to healing, not like perfectly, we hope that it don't take another 5 to 10 years, but we have to be able to make space that in the same amount of time that it took us that pain to go through, we have to at least give ourselves the grace that at the worst case, it could take that same amount of time to heal. And we have to make space for that. But yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off on that.
No,
I just had to
it's just like Obama when he got into office. Bush fucked us up in 8 years. And so many people, especially to fix it within the first 2 years or the first 4. How you thought the hell that was going to happen? And so the last thing of the 3 was space. You have to make room for what you're praying for to come to fruition. That may involve you removing some people, places, and things out of your life. That don't mean that you have to necessarily remove them from your life eternally. Sometimes you just might have to put something on pause. Or everybody can't go with you to the next level or to that next journey that God is going to take you. But when he takes you there and you get stable, you can reach back down and grab the people that you had to put on pause. You have to make for the right things to happen to us. And I think that when we can be okay with the grace, space, and pace and dedicate ourselves to working on it one day at a time, I think that's when we can start to see some healing, some progression. But it's going to take a toll.
Can we talk about, you said something earlier that was really, it hit me, it struck me, because I think what you said was incredibly real about we can be so disconnected, like, from God, from the power of God when it comes to ourselves, but we have the ability to see what it could do for others. Can we, are you okay with talking about that a little bit more? Because I mean, that resonated with me. And it's like, I wonder what that's about, like when it comes to us. Like, where does that come from? To where it's like, because what it tells me is that it's not that we don't believe,
Right.
in the power of him, because we believe in the power of what he can do for others. But somehow, some way, we just we find ourselves, because I find myself, feeling like for some reason we're the exception, and that his grace, his mercy, his power can't equally apply to us.
Right.
And like, I'm just curious for you, like, talk about that a little bit, about how that happens for you. Like, how you can see it for others, but not for yourself.
So for me, um, I didn't get to this under construction place overnight. So it was a series of things that continued to happen back to back that just kind of etched away slowly at my faith and my spiritual relationship, and me seeing like, pick me, I'm over here, I'm waiting. And just when I pray for others and I commune with others, and I just see how he moves and blesses and heals. And it feeds me. It feeds me to see people doing better. It feeds me to feel that my prayer possibly was listened to for someone else. But like when I pray, like I get sent straight to voicemail. And so it's kind of like evidence based. It's easy for me to believe in what he can do for others because I continually seen it. I continually seen, you know, he would never forsake the righteous, and he, when you are faithful, I've seen what he can do. But for some reason with me, it makes me think, and I hope God forgive me, this is a bad way to say it, but it reminds me of Janet Jackson's song, "What Have You Done For Me Lately?" I try to look at the long list of things he's done for me in my past. And I try to hang on that. But the last 4 years have been so hard and difficult, uh,
Mm-hmm.
that no longer carries weight. I don't like
Mm-hmm.
it, I
Mm-hmm.
hate it, but it's a fact. And so because I don't have any kind of renewed examples, for lack of better,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard for me to believe in fix the under construction aspect that I have with him. But
Mm-hmm.
daily, I'm seeing the wonders, and I'm seeing everything he's done, whether it's delivering certain relatives from things, whether it's seeing relatives go through things and slowly come out of it, whether it's the friends or people I've come across that I just feel this sense of joy seeing
Mm-hmm.
how he is moving and is omnipresent in their life. But then unfortunately, when I come home or when it's just me and my thoughts, me analyzing my life, I'm not seeing any evidence or anything for me. And I say that with caution because yes,
Right.
I wake up every morning, I'm making my business to, and even as I'm going throughout the day, thank him for waking up this morning
Mm-hmm.
on my job. I even thank him for little, well, for some people it may seem little, but for me it's a lot. Me just making it home safely, or me making it to work on time and safely. So I still try to feed myself spiritually by thanking him for a variety of things every day. well, it hasn't fixed my disconnect with him. And
Yes.
so I'm lost in that department. I don't know how to fix under construction. I'm reading the Bible. I'm reading devotionals. I'm putting positivity into my mind in regards to the things I put in from the books I read, the things I'm watching TV, the music. So like I'm trying my best to feed myself all this positive and spend time with him and watch my daily sermon, just all these different things that I'm trying. It hasn't progressed me spiritually. There's a big wall that I cannot get over. And so that's why I cannot believe, I don't want to say not believe in what he'll do in my life, but although I'm at a bad place spiritually with God, I still trust and believe 100% what he can and will do in the life of others. Because from that perspective, I constantly see it. But for myself, I don't.
So it makes me ask this question now because I feel what you're saying because it's hard to be able to see it in our own lives for a variety of reasons, whether we are like, because we can because it's us, we can easily be like, oh well, no, that's not it, or you know, we can talk ourselves out of the solution because we'll say, well, that's not how it resolves, that's not how it does because this and this and this and this happened,
Mhm.
right? Because we're too deep into it, right? Like into our our personal life. But I'm curious, the way that we can see like what God does in the lives of others. I'm wondering if we did that exercise about that. I'm wondering what would it be like if somebody else was looking at you, like maybe they feel the same way. They feel like God is not moving in their life the way that they want, and they don't see like the power of God happening in their life, but they too can see what is happening in others, and they shine that light on you, right? And they say like, you may not see it, but this is what I see. Like, and do you believe that's possible? That a person can see, they can see that there's that God, the power of Him is flowing through you in your life.
Yeah, I do. And I've had specifically this. It's so crazy you say that because there's a specific friend of mine uh,
Mm-hmm.
who is there in, well, not there because you're in Texas, but she's over in Arizona, and
Right.
she will have these conversations with me, and we've known each other for years. She's from Brevard, kind of like I'm from, and everything like that. And she constantly will say things to me, and my best friend, who is living in Brevard County, they will say things to me that I don't see in myself.
Mm.
Say things and point out things that I've been through and don't know how I made it through. Because in their eyes, it's like most people probably fold at that, but you're still alive or you're still ticking, you're still
Mm-hmm.
here active doing things. People who know me like to mention the books and the podcast and the foundation. And for me, those have been two things. Number one, positive distractions. But
Yep.
two, the second thing is that it's been my effort
Mm-hmm.
trying to put positivity into the world in hopes
Mm-hmm.
that karma will come back to me. I'm trying to reap what I sow in hopes that
Yeah.
this hell that I've gone through for 4 years now, at some point, I'll be able to go to the credit union of karma and be able to cash out. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't do things expecting anything in return. It's always out the kindness of my heart. And so that's why I've done this thing. And so, when you talk about, and those who know that a big part of my pain has been grief by way of death.
Yep.
Um, it's been 4 years where I've literally lost four people very close to me.
Yeah.
3.5 years span of time. And when the first person died, my whole world shattered.
Right.
how close we were. And there's been a list of other negative things that happened that kind of unrelated, but that made work life so much worse, which I'm not going to put that business out there right now.
Right.
But it's amazing to me how people see strength.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing that whenever people want to say something positive, strength is one of the common words that they say,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't see it because
Mm-hmm.
I've had the ideations, I've had the darkness, I've had the self-medicating, and people's like, well, you're heartbroken, you're going through this, that, and the third, but you still sit on a computer and do a podcast. You still make people. You still make people laugh. You still make people feel good. So where does that space come from? And
Mm-hmm.
the podcast, or even with my foundation doing the scholarship fund, if I can have a happy life, I hope that at least in the midst of my hell, I can make somebody else happy. I hope that in the midst of my hell, I can do something good for somebody else, because you never know how long your time on this earth is going to be. So at the end of the day, whenever my chapter closes, I just want people to feel like I love people and I wanted to be there for people. And so I struggle to see that in myself as far as the strength and just, a role model or people looking up to me. And it feeds me, but then I'm so broken that it just lasts temporarily. And so, yeah, those two individuals, they definitely have done exactly what you said, but I don't know. It's just so much damage going on that sometimes it doesn't really stick.
I would say this, and I think that others who may listen to this moment, this conversation that we, and on that specific topic right there, would probably see the same thing, is that you just described and displayed the strength. So I I'd love for you to go back and listen to that moment and really just like without like necessarily looking, just let it kind of wash over you, because you literally showed and displayed strength and what that looks like in the fact of saying that even when I'm going through hell, and accepting what all that means to say that I hope that I still have the strength, the capacity, the endurance, the creativity to be able to provide joy and peace, protection for somebody else. You laid that out. So that is the strength that you have. Even if you don't see it for yourself, you clearly can articulate it. And I'm not saying that because I know how it is to suffer and deal with mental health. I'm not sitting there saying that in this moment that, oh, just because we called it out in this moment, yeah, you should have the answers for that. It's going to take time. It's going to take time. But I'm so glad that it was documented in this moment to say that, like, just for you to see that there's an example of that happening, right? And I'm sure if we would dig deeper, we'd find other aspects of how that power is, to where we feel disconnected, that we're actually connected.
Mm.
And it's hard, and we don't even like we really are, because we do know that we only have about so much of energy capacity that we can do,
Right.
and then and the ability to go beyond comes from somewhere. It doesn't come from us.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes from the prayers of those who come before us.
Absolutely.
Them tapping into their source and trying to pour that on it. It comes from your upbringing, the trials and tribulations that you've experienced. Is like you are, like they say, like some people were saying that, oh, I don't even know how you could have possibly got through that, because if it was me, I probably wouldn't be here no more. That says something. Like, yes, it says that you have strength, but it also sits there and says that you are covered.
Mm.
And I don't believe, and God, I'm not speaking, for you or anything, but I'm just saying, like, I don't believe that we always have to have the answer to that, right? I think that there are going to be stages and phases in our life to where we are going to feel personally disconnected. And sometimes I truly believe that it is by design. Because I can't lie and act like that since 2023 began, that several times where I feel like I haven't been connected.
Absolutely.
Like several times. Probably can name a lot more. But it's don't even get me started. But but we are. And I think that we're allowed this space and this grace to be able to navigate through this phase of life, feeling disconnected but desiring to be connected and see where that takes us, because I believe that in your disconnect you're being equipped with things, like something that's going to something that's truly going to be able to prepare you in the immediate future, or long term. And I ain't gonna lie, sometimes I'll say, in part of our friends, I'll be like, I want that shit now. Like, I want to feel like that now. Like, I don't care if life is trying to prepare me for what's happening tomorrow. I need it today. But what I'm starting to learn is the fact that if the Lord say the same, I wake up in the morning, I think that he gave me just enough to be able to get through that day. And I think that we have to give ourselves some grace to say that things are not in alignment with the way that I believe that they should be.
Right.
It's just not.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that it's out of alignment for the greater story that's being written in our life.
Right.
And I'm not saying that to be like, oh, I want you to feel better, today. Like, I want you to feel like really good. Like, I'm not saying that at all, because that, like, because that's not how life always works.
Right.
But I want you to know that what the things that you've experienced, the fact that you're still here says everything. The fact that you still have people who do love you, myself included, love you. And I know I have like, I've fallen short because my life has been a mess at times. But the fact that people really still love and care about you, the fact that you can look back over just this podcast alone, all the guests that you've had,
Yeah.
like this tribe of community who believes in the vision that you have.
Yeah.
And let that wash over you for a little bit. Like, hey, you don't have to do nothing with it, but just take a moment to realize that there's a tribe of people who truly rock with you, so much so that they're willing to go on the journey that you're taking us, creatively.
Yeah. And then, having given them a safe space, because I've had people share things and I'm like, they really finna be that vulnerable, or they really that it makes me think of the surviving suicide episode that I had earlier this season, where one person I'd known for a few years, one actually used to be a mentee with my nonprofit when I first started years ago, and never knew she was going through what she went through. Or even the surviving domestic violence episode that I had recently. And for that woman who I had known for a few years and we used to work together, for her to share what she shared, and I think about so many other people who have gotten on my podcast, believed in me, like you said, but felt safe and have shared and poured out their heart about all kinds of stuff. I have to say that's one thing that I find rewarding. That's one thing that I can definitely say, if only just for a few minutes, it does make me feel like I've done some good. That with all this, I just say your pain can be your purpose. Yeah.
Yes, I would say this, and think, is that you provided this grace and this space and this for other people to be vulnerable, but people are not going to just choose to be vulnerable with somebody for no reason, because they also see that you're connected to something higher, and that you're being used as a vessel, and to be able to bless others. And sometimes vessels get beat up.
Yeah.
Like the vessels that carry people across the ocean, the waves beat that thing up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, I'm not trying to say this because I'm like over here trying to care. I'm just saying facts of of what it is, and it's our opportunity for us to say if we can accept those facts. If we can accept them for other people, then why can't we accept them facts in our own lives?
I don't know, and I've struggled. I talked about it with my therapist. I've talked about it with some friends.
Yeah.
I struggle with giving myself grace.
Yep.
But sometimes to a fault, and even when they don't deserve it, I'm so quick to give other people grace, it don't make no sense.
Yes.
Half the grace that I've given other people, had I given to myself, sometimes it makes me wonder how further off I'd be, specifically internally. But yeah, I struggle with giving myself grace. I don't know why. It's like I can inspire other people, don't know how to inspire myself.
You know what? You don't have to have the answer to that. As long as you can see that that's what you do, then every day, every moment that we have a chance to be able to breathe and function in this world is an opportunity for us to explore why, right? And what giving grace to ourselves looks like, because yeah. Sorry, I'm about to get all up in my feelings, but yeah, I think that this is an important conversation that we have to have. I think that something in my journey that I feel like I'm doing all this other work, but what I'm feeling called to do, and I haven't ever said this publicly, is I'm truly leaning into this space of that mental health. My parents used to tell me, when they were young, they thought that I was going to be a preacher. But, when I got older, and at first I was like, I'm a preacher. No. I don't think that that's where I'm trying to be, or what I'm called to be, but the concepts behind it, of a speaking power into people, being able to tell stories and be able to connect with people. is something that I do feel called to do. You know, to try to connect, people, to try to connect, because I'm still searching to connect myself. And maybe like I'll into my dying day, I'll be trying to feel that connection. And maybe but maybe that is my journey.
Yeah.
Like to and maybe that's what I'm meant to be here for.
Yeah.
And I hate saying that because I'm like, who wants to sit there and say that they're here to suffer? Every day, but maybe it's not like maybe it's my perspective around that. It's not actually suffering. It literally is like you're meant to be that person, that shield, that sword that dives deep into, that provides protection for others. I don't know.
And even with the whole word of suffering, I mean, it's hard when you don't know what other way to describe it but that word. Because that's
Mm-hmm.
how you feel. Yeah, they say mindset is half the battle. And a lot of times you hear people
Mm-hmm.
talk about, changing your mind and change the way you view things, change the way you think about things. But if you're going through these things, especially repeatedly, and no matter how many times or how much you try to reframe or recalibrate your mind, that word just still stays out there. I can't tell you how many times I've tried to recalibrate, and I've spoken to different types of therapists. I've different type of preachers. I too bring born around
Mm-hmm.
church, will depend on the word myself and read for myself and search for myself. But hell, sometimes that's the only two words I can use is hell and misery. And how many
Yes.
times I try to, like I said, reframe and recalibrate, and we're both very educated. We're both, college. Both of us have multiple degrees, so we have a vocabulary.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Words we try to search our vocabulary for, our vernacular still doesn't change the fact that we feel fucking miserable in hell.
That part.
So
That part.
what the hell else do we do?
I think that I really think that it starts with finding community
Mm-hmm.
and knowing that we are not alone in this space, no matter how unique we feel that our scenario
Yeah.
is that conversations like this, even if it's for a moment, you know, are helpful because who knows if we didn't have this moment, the other place we would go.
Correct. Correct.
Yes. Think about that a lot personally in my life. Like who knows? I I went through a deep dark place for so long, like to where, especially during when the pandemic was first kicking off, I didn't leave my room.
Mm.
I just was depressed. I would like there's so many, and I'm sure that's the conversation for another day, but yeah. And it's just like I've been going on this journey to reconnect to just being a functioning person. But the thing about it is that I had this willpower to endure because bills still had to be paid. Like, I couldn't afford, like, the sacrifices we make just in order to be able to have a roof over our head and the things that we put up with just to make sure that certain things are in place so we can be able to fight another day.
Yeah, so funny you said it because because we've I've shared it. I work excessive hours and I'm constantly picking up,
Yes.
and I can work, regular week is 40 hours a week. And it is not uncommon for me to have pushed that to 55 to 60 hours in a week.
Mm-hmm.
It is not uncommon for me to have 130 plus hours for a 2 week pay period. And
Mm-hmm.
the 80, financially, yes, money is always beneficial. Pay bills, trying to save, take care of life, whatever it is. So yes, of course, financially, all the overtime comes in handy. But that is not the number one reason why I do it.
Mm-hmm.
It is a distraction from the
Escapism.
shit show that is my life. And
Mm-hmm.
I have a 4-on, 3-off schedule where I work 4 days, I'm off 3 days. I can't tell you, with the exception of last week, and I thought I'm gonna lose my mind, when I've allowed myself to have all of my days off. I will give myself
Yep.
1 day off.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes only 1 day off for a whole pay period. Because when I'm not at work, this misery, this hell that I feel lost in the middle of is the only thing that's on my mind. I live alone, don't have a boo thing. It's really just me, myself, and I, because I have
Yeah.
and fraternity brothers and family that, if I reached out, they'd be there. People got their own lives. But it's when I'm at work that I can just escape, like you said. It's escapism because I can easily do 15, 16 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Less time my ass got to be home. And, because when I'm at work, you have some people that make a joke like, do you live here? Do you ever go home? Or they'll say, oh, you must got, I love to travel. So they love to say, oh, you must got a trip coming up, or you must got something you need to pay for because I'm always doing the 6 hours. And I laugh, but little do they know, outside of this building, I don't like my life. And so I don't want to deal with it. So I'm bringing my ass to work as much as I possibly can. And unfortunately, because of the situation I shared with you before we started recording this, that has now been affected,
Mm-hmm.
just for, moving parts are not the same anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it makes me afraid because the more time I'm at home or the more time I'm not at work, I got to deal with me. I got to deal with this life that's been forced upon me, and I don't have the answers.
Mm-hmm.
And I barely have the hope and the optimism. So I'd rather be at work. And it goes back to what you said earlier about me, no matter what I'm going through, wanting to be of service to people. I work in the medical field. So
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather go to work and benefit these people who are on hospice. So therefore, you ain't got that much longer to live. What can I do to better help you? Because I can't do anything to help myself. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the number one reason why any opportunity to go to work, I will.
That's real. And on a funnier note, like you said something, boy, when I tell you, you will travel. You will travel. You don't have no problem getting in no plane to go wherever you and see, and that is one of the things that exactly. But you know what? That is one of the things that I love about you and how you live life. Me, on the other hand, I'm up in this house. Everybody be like, you don't go nowhere. You ain't gonna go nowhere. You ain't gonna do nothing. All you gonna do is lay in that bed and work and all that kind of stuff. And it's just like I don't know where it came from because I used to travel. We was on trips together.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, that depression and anxiety is shut down. And for some reason I developed this fear of flying. And it has caused
because you never
it's crazy.
All of depression would do a number on you. Mm-hmm. How you go from, like you said, we've done trips together, to now you're scared of flying
makes no sense. Yeah. And that's the journey that I'm on right now because I feel like that's the personal hell that I'm in because I have a job that literally was like, oh, you want to go to LA? Oh, you want to go to DC? We need you to be here, blah, blah, blah. And, and I get so, or my friends, you like, you ain't been out to Florida yet. And it's killing me because it's not that I don't want to go.
Let's talk about that for a moment. Because even before your ass got this fear of flying, you were still making these bullshit excuses for why you can't come to Florida. But only God knows, I damn near for a while was coming to Texas yearly. And I remember,
You,
and I'll never forget years ago, because we've been friends since '05, '06. And I
yes,
remember the Lakers were playing somebody in the championship. Because it was that stretch of time where, and this is during the Kobe and Shaq years, when they won that
yes,
they won the three-peat. They beat
yeah.
they beat what was Iverson's team? Whatever fuck team, 76ers.
Sixers,
They beat the
yeah.
76ers one year. They beat the Pacers one year. And I cannot remember who the third team was that they beat. But I remember it was one of those seasons where, because you're a hater, and you bet me that we was not gonna win, and it was a tough year. It was a tough playoff for us, and we made a bet that if the Lakers win, you was bringing your ass to Florida. He has retired. He is dead and gone, and your ass ain't still been to Florida yet. But I done been to Texas multiple times.
And I'm glad that we're having saying this on camera because I apologize, and I will say also, if I'm being honest, it was because I was so poor. That like
That's a lie.
when I
You have always been
friend,
in a higher tax bracket than me. You stop that right now.
listen, higher tax bracket or not, them bills took me to the brink to where like to where it was like life was just like and maybe and this is like even as a person who's in banking at the time I was still trying to build my financial habits of like to get things in order and or like I overextend myself
It's gonna be messy for a second, but go ahead.
and honestly I just honestly I couldn't afford to do it and be gone for an extended period of time because I gotta watch my dog I got my job. I'm a banker that where the job is open like being in the bank at the time we're open 6 days a week
Right.
and so it's like and you don't get vacation hours like that so you got to be
Stuff. You wasn't just a
and,
bank teller either.
yes but
You was one of the people off playing with the people coins.
yes, but it, oh god, yes, but it didn't allow me to do certain things the way that I wanted to do. So in front of everybody, I apologize, friend, because my tail should have been in Florida a long time ago, and that is one of you. Um, I am in the I am going through the therapy to be able to get over this fear that has consumed me. So therefore, you'll be one of the first places that I'm visiting. So you be ready. You don't need to do nothing because when I come into town, I'm gonna come into town like Hurricane Stephone. We're gonna go.
I know somebody. But even not even just for me, because I love coming to Dallas, but just I want you to get that joy back because you, like you said, you would travel a lot when we would do our trips, or even just for work. I think you went to Boston one time. Your job had you going. The previous job had you going all over the place, and you enjoyed it. And the depression took over, and it's like, damn, it just snatched that part of you. I didn't.
And
It's so much out there. Do you have a passport?
it's expired.
Right, okay. Because I love my international trip. It's so much out there I want you to see.
And I want to see it too. And it's like, and I'm on that journey trying to figure out what do I need to do in my life to be able to get over this irrational fear of flying because it like I traveled. Now the even the thought of talking about it sends me into like a place and like I'm the fact that I'm talking about it right now I feel like maybe I'm making progress because I wouldn't have even been able to talk about this because I'd be like, can't do it. Nope, shut down. So I'm making progress.
So other than flying, what else would you say that depression has? Because I know for me, it's made me extra guarded. Um, and that sometimes that can be extremely like choking, like flexing is choking. You feel like you've been guarded all the fucking time. That's so overwhelming. What else would you say it's taken away from you, the depression, other than the fear of flying?
Connection with friends, connection with family. I find myself closing myself off because I just don't want to go through to see other people disappointed in what I can't do. So I get ahead of it and be like, oh well, no, I'm not gonna be able to do that. So it's like it it has done that. It's done a number on me in that area to where it's like I get guarded and I overcompensate, in so many other ways, right? I'm like, oh well, I got friends who want to do something. I find myself just not being available anymore, for even like the conversations, not because I don't want to be around them, but it's depressing when you think about like, damn, you used to do this and do that, and now something irrational got a hold of you, and you're not doing the things that you want to do. So I'd say that my connection with my loved ones, I feel like it's limited my growth professionally because I am at a stage in my career to where, and like whether it's my personal activism, whether it's like, my professional job and all these type of things to where I could be doing more, but I'm stuck. And COVID didn't make it no easier.
Oh God,
You
exactly.
know, it didn't make it no easier. And it's like, and that's what we were talking about earlier before we had this conversation. Is like the time that it took to go through these things, to learn these irrational fears, to learn how not to like believe in ourselves, to feel disconnected. It's going to take somewhere close to the same amount of time to be able to unlearn these things. And what I will say is like, if I can put a positive spin on it, is like I'm going through this season of unlearning,
Hmm.
unlearning the fear, like, and when I say unlearning, it's not to make myself dumber,
Right.
but it's saying unlearning the things that I've taught myself to limit myself. Like unlearning these negative belief systems, unlearning the trauma that, comes from like being a black man in America, like what you're taught that you have to be like this,
Right.
unlearning the things that you go through. And just like any family would have, of unlearning the pains that you've taught yourself to deal with,
Hmm.
and like trying to be able to free up that space. So right now I feel like I'm in this great unlearning, like, because my goal is to be able to be light as a feather
Hmm.
so I can actually like rebuild in the way that I want to. But it's like it's time to cast down all of those things that I've learned to hold on to,
Hmm.
and so that's kind of where I'm at right now. And I'm hoping that that's the beginning of something better.
And I think it's great that you have the self-awareness. Like you have the plan, you know what needs to be done, and it's just getting out of your own way.
But will I do it though? That's the problem. Like I know it,
Oh,
but
but
do I have the
yeah,
and that's with a lot of us, right? Like we know what to do, but will we do it though?
right. Gotta get over that hump,
Well,
that doubt,
yeah.
that demotivation, whatever it is we're feeling. It can be a struggle to get over that.
And I'll say like hopefully next time we have this conversation, at which we should, like we'll both be able to report where are we now in the journey
I hope so.
on.
My God,
I know so. We know so. Like that's what we got to tell ourselves. We know so.
absolutely, yeah. Because this can't be.
We've been.
This can't keep going on, honey.
It won't. It won't. It won't. We have really talked it up.
I didn't even expect this. I didn't know what, because I'm doing one of the things I wanted to do with this friends and family takeover is just give people the opportunity to, flip the script, turn the tables on me, and I enjoy conversation. I enjoy people probing and picking my brain about stuff. Um, and I didn't know what you were going to come with because, like I told you, and anybody else that I have or plan on doing this with is I don't want to know what your plan is. I don't want to know ahead of time what you're going to talk about, what you're going to ask me, what we're going to do. I don't want to know nothing. And so I didn't know coming into doing this episode with you what we're going to talk about, because when you have someone that you've been friends with almost 20 years, and
Yep.
have shared it all, the good, bad, the ugly,
Mm-hmm.
everything. You never know what direction it can go into. And so I do appreciate the conversation. I feel like it was necessary, even a lot of what we talked about before we started recording the episode. And I will say, if nothing else, I am curious to see what these next few days, weeks, and months go, because I thoroughly hated 2019 to 2022. And I was really hoping that 2023 was going to alleviate that feeling. And I wasn't going to end 2023 or go through 2023 feeling the same way about it. And so, we've spoken openly about how I'm definitely not in a good place. But yeah, I'll just say that. Yeah, but we'll see.
No, but sometimes like things linger over from the previous year. So beginning of 2023 is kind of shaking it off. And
Yeah,
so who's this, like this doesn't mean that this is what the full 2023 is going to look like for either of us.
and I
It
do.
looks like yeah.
Yeah, and what's so interesting is, I guess, a small glimpse of hope. When I look at the last few years, I said, okay,
Mm-hmm.
each one of these years started, I found myself feeling optimistic in the sense that each one of these years started with me feeling there was some level of progression.
Mm-hmm.
That each one of those years started with me feeling like, I'm going to accomplish this, and this is going to change, and really going into each year with a lot of optimism.
Mm-hmm.
And each year went straight to hell. This year is not starting with that. This year is not starting with
Right.
that. This year is not starting with me feeling like things are falling into place. This year is not starting with me feeling that progression. So it makes me slightly hopeful that since this year is starting, although in a very negative way, starting different than the last 4 years, does this means that this year is going to do the opposite of what the last 4 did? So that gives me
If we wanted to,
optimism. That gives me slight optimism.
I received that, and I'm excited because if that's what we wanted, like if we want it to be different, it's gonna be like because you didn't come in here with no preconceived notions of what it should look like. You came existing as yourself,
Right.
and let the spirit move us.
Yeah. Hallelujah. Well,
So, no, I was about to. Yeah, you're hitting it.
so in a perfect world, what does 2023 look like
Mm.
to you? Or what would you like to get?
Healing, healing. Every year I try to pick a word that I want the theme of my year to be, and I'm at such a place to where what I want is healing. I want this to be a restorative year, mind, body, soul, you know, emotionally, financially, all the things, spiritually, all of that. I want this to be a year of healing because the last couple of years have really, came at your boy. So I'm still here. So every day is a day of of replenishing and healing, whatever that may look like. It doesn't big or small. It can be the most smallest of things, but that's what I want 2023 to be about healing.
I like that. My word would be conclusion.
Okay.
I want, another word for conclusion is end. I want an end to being stagnant in my pain. I want
Mm-hmm.
an end to being stagnant in my healing. I want an end to not giving myself grace.
Mm-hmm.
I want an end to my relationship with God being deeply under construction.
Mm-hmm.
And I want the end of not being able to, without a doubt, say that there's happiness and joy in my heart. Because I
Mm.
haven't had that. I can't tell you last time my heart actually smiled. I can't tell you last time that I can say that I genuinely feel happy in this moment because I'm so jaded and guarded
Mm-hmm.
that I want to also say an end to being jaded and being guarded driving my life.
Yes. I received that. Like that, I think because at first I'm like, wait a minute now. Conclusion, but I like how you turn that like get some clarity, of what you're
And
talking
I
about.
did it on purpose.
Yeah,
Okay,
and I like that.
we throw
That's
this
the
word
crazy.
at because when people hear this word, they're gonna be like, "Well, what the fuck conclusion?" Yeah, I did it on purpose. Yeah,
You're good. See, that's the storyteller in you.
it's
That's
still
the
a little bit of
creative in
Ramon.
you.
It's still a little bit of my crazy stuff is inside somewhere.
And it's bring it all on out. Like that's what this year is gonna be for the both of us. Thank you for having me here. Thank you for allowing me to be in this moment with you. I hope that it was enriching for you as it is for me because I didn't realize how much I needed to have this conversation.
Mhm. And I thank God for having me reach out to you and be like, we need to have this conversation. And yeah, like you said, I hope people get something from it. And I like the fact that you said earlier for me to go back and listen to it.
Well, that's it for the zone today. We are officially shutting it down. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And until next time, remember this. If you have a goal, give an hour of every day to that goal. Holla.